Hello boys and girls, I'm Ant, and it's been a while since the last video. There's a multitude of reasons for that. Mostly it's because my originally planned next episode was another big one, and also because I restarted making it partway through. As a result, I felt like I needed a break from that project, and after playing a silly amount of the Insomniac developed Marvel Spider-Man game, I thought I'd put together a little video about a few elements of that game that I absolutely adore. Don't worry, there'll be no spoilers. All footage is from the post-story free roam cleanup, and at most you'll see a small villain from a side story. No main story scenes or unlockable costumes will be included. So with all that out of the way, let's talk about the feel of Marvel Spider-Man. In Marvel Spider-Man, which I'll be referring to as just Spider-Man from now on, hope that doesn't confuse anyone, Insomniac made sure the gameplay elements were as on-brand as possible. Usually the web swinging action in Spider-Man games is the first thing people comment on, and you'll find that no matter what, every Spider-Man game will have its web-based traversal compared to Treyarch's Spider-Man 2. We'll get onto that, but I also want to talk about the combat, which I feel this new game has nailed perfectly. In previous Spider-Man games, the hand-to-hand combat is usually pretty straightforward and bolstered by a few extra moves here and there. Sometimes the webs get used as special moves, and sometimes they're fully incorporated into the combat. None of them ever quite get the feel of being Spider-Man down though. They get close, but not quite there. Insomniac though managed to get the feeling of zipping around, dodging attacks, and generally being an acrobatic ass kicker down to the best it's ever been. You have a combo attack, but it'll often be interrupted by enemies attacking you, meaning you rarely have to sit and watch the same combo get played out 1,000 times in the space of an hour. Some enemies require you to get behind them, some require webbing before you can attack, and some require you to launch them in the air to perform some gravity-defying air combos. Whilst the general punching and kicking doesn't have the combo intricacy of a spectacle fighter like Bayonetta or Devil May Cry, it requires a similar amount of fast reactions and on-the-fly thinking. Right from the start, most of your abilities are there to use, with the game's skill tree mostly just unlocking extra uses for the skills you already have. You can also purchase upgrades for your web gadgets to make the scales tip more in your favour during combat. That said, you'll find that what it mostly comes down to is your ability to react to the action around you. As you get more used to the action, you'll be dodging punches, gunfire and rockets, and eventually you'll be able to fling those rockets back at your enemies. You'll be zipping between enemies at high speed and hitting the finisher combos as fast as the game can throw evil henchmen at you. Insomniac really nailed the sensation of being essentially untouchable that you'd want from a Spider-Man game. If you think about how Spider-Man fights, you don't think of him having his feet planted and just slugging it out with the enemy. You imagine him swerving between opponents, leaping over their heads, webbing their faces mid-flip, flinging himself back and forth, and generally taking down enemies with a combination of innovative high-impact attacks and Lucha Libre style Hurricane Ranas. An obvious parallel for the combat would be Rocksteady's Batman Arkham games. Both feature acrobatic combat and a heavy focus on using the dodge button to counter attacks, although in Spider-Man it's more about dodging attacks than straight up countering. In the Batman games, one criticism of the combat was how he locks onto enemies and leaps massive distances to land hits. That sounds more like something you'd expect from Spider-Man, but Insomniac didn't want you on autopilot when beating up enemies. They want you to be more active, so when you knock down one enemy, hitting square doesn't magnetically shoot you towards an enemy stood 20 feet away. Instead you have to close the gap by using triangle to zipline to him. It may not seem like much, but it changes just how active a participant in the combat you are. For all the Arkham game's brilliance, there are times where the combat almost feels passive, as you mash punch until the wibbly line appears to tell you when to hit the counter button. You really can't do that in Spider-Man to the same degree. It never feels like you're tapping along to pre-canned animations. You'll never feel like you're losing control. It can feel like you're close to losing control for sure, and that's kinda perfect. See, Spider-Man relies on his spider sense to get him out of most trouble, and the game wants you to feel that same way. It wants you to hit the dodge button when Spidey's sense tingles, and for you to gracefully leap out the way of an oncoming bullet in the sort of way only Spider-Man can. My only gripe with the combat has been that the spider sense indicator sometimes gets a bit lost in the action. I got used to it after a while as I learned to focus on Spidey and not the oncoming enemies like you would in an Arkham game. I do feel the spider sense effect could do with a high contrast option in the quite well featured accessibility menu though. So, with the combat out of the way, what about the web swinging? well, I like it. It's not as in-depth as the swinging in the previously mentioned Spider-Man 2, which isn't a sequel to this Spider-Man game, it's a sequel to the 2002 Spider-Man game based on the Sam Raimi movie. Sorry for the confusion. In Spider-Man 2, the web swinging was the first time you actually had to latch onto buildings. Most games before this had you just swinging about in the air, often joked about as webbing onto the clouds. That old method was okay, but really it just meant you were flying. Is it really web swinging if there's no actual swing? Spider-Man 2 had it set up in a way that you couldn't swing about above the buildings and that you had to maintain momentum to keep yourself in the air. That all seems like a lot, but it worked well for the time and was quite versatile. It really felt like you were Spider-Man swinging through New York City. That was in 2004 though. It's now 2018, almost one whole Peter Parker later, and the technology is a lot more superior now. Insomniac chose to simplify elements of the web swinging to make it more immediate and easy to learn, but maintain the need for momentum to a certain extent. They gave you the ability to build up speed by zipping onto nearby objects, and made it so you didn't instantly stick to walls if you get too close. The right trigger is your web swinging button, but it's also your parkour button. So if you get close to a wall, Spidey will run across it, or up it if you hit a wall face on. Some previous games had done this before, to be fair, but Insomniac has made it feel more fluid than ever. The benefits of having a first-party production budget, I guess, along with an extremely talented pool of developers. The web swinging feels incredibly freeing. I had a couple of chase sequences where I got a bit turned around when my target turned fast, but it's almost always fully recoverable. The feeling of swinging through the world feels like what the Raimi Spider-Man movies made it look like. New York is your playground to soar through and over as you please. Little moments of flair and the flips and tricks you unlock as you gain skills later in the game help add these small moments of expression to your swinging. That little bit of showing off Peter Parker likes to do as he does his spider thing. Without getting into the minutiae of the game's plot, this Spider-Man game feels like it gets the characterization of Peter Parker and the feeling of being Spider-Man down perfectly. This might be the best represented combo of Peter Parker and Spider-Man that I've seen outside of the comics. Usually one or the other has their representation a little bit off, but this game gets both sides of Spider-Man just right. New York has some character too. J. Jonah Jameson has an Alex Jones-esque podcast where he rants about the wrongs of the city, which are obviously all Spider-Man's fault.
Remember when Spider-Man had a sidekick? The Black Cat, a curvaceous young lady in leather. Not the kind you'd bring home to mother. Then it turned out she was a thief! Big shock, right? Well, I hear she's back. And let me make a prediction. Spider-Man's going to give her a second chance. Is it because he's naive? A thief himself? Or is he just thinking with his web shooters? Spider-Man, I know you're listening, so let me issue a warning now. As the old saying goes, lie down with cats, get up with fleas. What's that? My intern is yammering in my ear again. It's dogs? I thought it was cats, it doesn't matter. The metaphor still applies. Dogs, cats. Go away, Jared.
You can greet civilians in the street and get your photo taken with them too. No pizza delivery minigame though, which is a shame. The city is vast too, taking a good few minutes to traverse from one end to the other. Insomniac has made a fantastic Spider-Man game here that may well end up being as talked about and revered as the 2004 Spider-Man 2. Time will tell with that one. It's rare for licensed games to really hold their place in the history of games as significant works. Spider-Man 2 certainly managed that as being the benchmark for what a Spider-Man game should feel like, and I think Insomniac may have managed to finally one-up that game in every way. It really is the ultimate Spider-Man game. You could say it's Marvel. Everyone's already done that pun already, haven't they? Whatever. Hey there guys, thanks for your patience waiting for a new episode. It's actually been like 6 months since I put the last Mellow Gaming Recommends episode out, which is stupidly long. But tell me what you thought of the different approach I did on this video. It's a little bit different to previous ones. It's a bit more about an aspect of the game rather than being entirely about the whole game. So yeah, tell me what you think. Thank you for watching, and I guess I'll get started on the next episode, whatever that may be. I don't know if it's going to be the project I've put on hold or something else. We'll find out. Catch you later, and smash that like button. Not literally. Don't literally smash the like button. You need that button for other videos. Just click it.